Good day, everyone. I am Julieta B. Cotara, taking up Bachelor of Science in Accounting Information System, a first-year regular student of Taliban Polytechnic College. Our leader assigned us each topic to discuss in our report, and so first, I will do introducing the content of our group topics with the corresponding reporters. So you will know the content of our report. The first topic is the economics of information and the rules of government in the marketplace, which will be reported by Julieta Cotara, Rose Ansel Gayes, and Marjorie Altida. The second topic is all about incentive information and market structure, which will be reported by Joanna Rose Gayes, Rinelin Izan, and Vince Fernandez. And the last topic is the regulation and public policy, that will be reported by Juby Katlin Polo, Berly Rosales, Jeka Saladaga, and Hannah Marie Tamuraga. So, I will be the first one to discuss about the economics of information. The economics of information. From the word economics and information, what comes in your mind? So, before we deepen the discussion, let's determine first the meaning of economics and information. The word economics comes from the Greek oikos, meaning household, and nomos, meaning rule or governance. So, economics means rules of household. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, an economic is a social science concerned chiefly with description and analysis of the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Information consists of organized facts and figures that have meaning within the context that information is intended to be interpreted by people. Information is thus a valuable business commodity, and frequently businesses pay money for up-to-date and relevant information. Economics of information is a branch of microeconomics theory that studies how information affects an economy and economic decisions. Information has special characteristics. It is easy to create but hard to trust. It is easy to spread but hard to control. It influences many decisions. These special characteristics complicate many standard economic theories as compared with other types of goods. The economic of information first emerges in 1960s. Fundamental changes in world economics, emergence of computer technologies. Though economists often talk in terms that seem impenetrable, what they study is very simple and basic. The economy is how resources are distributed throughout society, since in 1960 the world has been described as an information economy rather than an industrial or agricultural economy. Buying, selling, and using information are at the heart of economic activity for business and consumers, as well as for the governments that regulates them. Economists tend to study the nature of decision making, the distribution of information, the flow of information, and the role of the information sector in a market context. Library and information system tend to look of notion of what information is and at information products as item bought, sold, used, copyrighted, made public, or provided, particularly in libraries. The uses of the word information. Information as process is the act of informing. Communication of news of some facts or occurrence, the action of telling on fact of being told of something. Information as knowledge is what is perceived in information as process. The knowledge communicated concerning some particular fact, subject, or event. Information as thing is used for data and documents, regarded as being informative, using the quality of embodying information. The nature of information. The creation is created for reasons beyond the market, like for self-expression, Space between creator and consumer disappear. Intangibility is information is intangible with no set and unit of measure. Heterogeneity, a single kind of information can have more than one form. Time is highly perishable. Example for this is the live news. Public goods is not consumed by being used, can be resold, given away with no reduction in its contents. So, the economic rules of information. A substitute for physical entities, telecommunicating replaces the movement of people. Exploration through imaging replaces exploration through surgery. Used for influence. Influence pursued. Advertising serves buyers and sellers about products. Essential in education, serving the process of learning, supplement teacher by providing material. A substance of cultural enrichment, people are willing to pay for it, which is the basis from the entertainment industries. As a product, produced as a package, can be a service, can be a capital resource.
Good day, everyone, especially to our instructress, Mrs. Flora August Rosales. And before anything else, let me introduce myself. I am Rose Ansel Sikabasan from Group 4, and together with Miss Marjorie Canyasares Autida, we will be reporting about the role of government in a marketplace. So, the role of government in a marketplace. Government plays a very big role in the market economy. To know what are those, here are the some roles of government in the market economy. First, provide public goods and services. These are the goods and services provided by a government for all people to use. These services are paid for by taxes and include such things as providing for the national defense. Government also provide or give that individuals or private business can't provide. Second is maintain competition. Competition is very important in the market economies because it leads to lower production costs and prices. If business become monopolies, the benefits of competition are lost. There is a role of government to regulate some monopolies, such as public utilities. Some economists believe that the government should prevent monopolies from occurring or break them up when though they occur. Third is provide a legal system. The government needs to provide a system of laws, add courts to protect property rights and also customers. The right to protect properties is one of the basic characteristics of the market economies. Fourth is the economic growth and stability. Governments rely upon taxes and expenditures and monetary regulation to foster macroeconomic growth and stability, to reduce unemployment and inflation while encouraging economic growth. Fifth is protect the environment. Because of the garbage pollution that gives a very big impact to the ecosystem, especially the use of plastics, the government implemented the use of the eco bags, paper bags, and no plastic policy in order to minimize or to achieve the goal of no plastic community, where in this way we will be minimizing the effect brought by plastics. Sixth and last is secure and protect the health of people. As the long-lasting widespread of COVID-19 pandemic has imposed huge challenges on public health as well as economic recovery, the reason why government strictly implement the rules and laws in following the health protocols such as proper wearing of face mask and face shields, following the social distancing and the newly vaccination, especially that market is very prone to people. So those are the some role of government in the marketplace. For the continuation of the topic, let us welcome Miss Marjorie Cañizares Autida.
Government and what it does for us. The government provides public goods and services, redistributes income and resolve market failure. So what is public goods? One of the important functions of a government is to provide public goods. Public goods will not be provided by private business in a market economy. People can consume public goods without paying for them. An important characteristic of public goods like public parks, street lighting, roads, a clean environment. These goods and services that are not paid by citizens, but they can be used anyway. The government pays for public goods. There is no incentive to receive any profit from these goods. Redistribute income or transfer payment. A market economy may produce high levels of inequality of income. An important role of government is to redistribute the income by taxing those people with large incomes and give it to needs people. Welfare, Medicare, Medicaid programs are examples of programs that support the poor, sick, and elderly. Resolving market failure. The government provides public goods so not to lead to market failure. Market failure is when resources are not distributed efficiently in a free market operations on its own. An example of an external benefits or positive externality, a farmer spray his or her trees to get rid of pests that damage not only on his or her crops, but also all of the crops in the area. Everyone in the area benefits from his spraying, even though others don't pay for it. This situation is an example of market failures because the farm and the factory do not produce an efficient amount of goods or services involved. When the decisions about how much to produce is left entirely up to markets, there's too much steel and too little pest spraying. Government intervention may seek to correct for the distortions created by market failure and improve the efficiency in the way market. Pollution taxes to correct for externalities. Taxations of monopoly profit, windfall tax. Regulations of oligopolies or cartel behavior. Direct preventions of public goods, defense. Policies to introduce competitions into market. Deregulation. Price controls for recently privatized utilities. That is how the government help us out.
Good day, everyone. Before I start my discussion, let me introduce myself first. I'm Renalyn Crescencio Quizan, a BSAI student from Block 2. For today's video, I will discuss it to you about market structure.
Market structure. Market structure in economics depicts how firms are differentiated and categorized based on the types of goods they sell and how their operations are affected by external factors and elements. It is easier to understand the characteristics of diverse markets. In simplest word, market structure refers to different market
Characteristics that determine the relations between sellers to each another, of sellers to buyers, and more. The purpose of market structure. A market structure is important because it affects market outcomes through its impact on the motivation, opportunities, and decision of economic actors participating in the market. There are four basic types of market structure: the pure competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and the pure monopoly. Pure competition, it is a market structure defined by a large number of small firms competing against each other. A single firm doesn't have significant marketing power, and as a result, the industry produces an optimal level of output because firms don't have the ability to influence market prices. In other words, pure competition, it is a market situation where it has an independent seller offering identical products like corns, rice, fish, vegetables, and etc. Here are some examples of pure competitions. Monopolistic competition. Like pure competition, it refers to a large number of small firms competing against each other. However, it sells similar but highly differentiated products, lowest possible cost production, which leads to optimal output. In pure competition, market structure is not assumed. In other words, monopolistic competition is a large number of small producers or suppliers selling similar but not identical products. Here are some examples of monopolistic competitions. Oligopoly is dominated by a few firms resulting in limited competition. They can collaborate with or compete against each other to use their collective market power to drive up prices and earn more profit. In other words, they are offering differentiated goods and services. Here are some examples of oligopoly. The last one is a pure monopoly. Exists when there is a single firm that controls the entire market. The firm and industry are synonymous. These firms is sole producers of a product and there are no close substitute. In other words, pure monopoly, it refers to a market situation when there is one only producer or sellers. Here are the examples of pure monopoly.
Good day, my name is Berly Coquilla Rosales, a first-year college of Bachelor of Science in Accounting Information System, Block 2. In this video, we're going to talk about public policy. The study of public policy is the examination of the creation by the government of the rules, laws, goals, and standards that determine what government does or does not do to create resources, benefits, costs, and burdens. In studying public policy, we focus on those decisions made or implicitly accepted by government and non-governmental actors to address a problem that a significant number of people and groups consider to be important and in need of a solution. A major element of studying and teaching public policy is the reliance of policy studies on a broad range of the social science. Policy science as applied science. You may question whether policy is science, but science is defined as the state of knowing, knowledge, rather than ignorance or misunderstanding. The values of empirical science, the number of teeth for men and women. Policy studies as a science. Harold Laswell argued that quantitative analysis and the scientific method were important elements of any policy science. But last will recognize that you must combine quantitative and qualitative information. We can say that the careful study of public policy is scientific because it contributes to knowledge by relying on methodological rigor. Policy analysis share a commitment to methodology but not to any one particular method. Science, rationality, and the policy process. Policy analysis is an important component of policy science, but researchers should keep national analysis in context within the interplay of evidence, value and belief system of participants, the structure of the process, and the distributions of power. Most policy analysis is not value neutral. Problem identification is rarely neutral.
What is public policy? Attributes common to various definitions of public policy. The policy is made in the public's name. Policy is generally made or initiated by government. Policy is interpreted and implemented by public and private actors. Policy is what the government intends to do. Policy is what the government chooses not to do. What makes public policy public? The dominant ideological foundation of our constitutional system is classical liberalism. John Locke. Power derives from the consent of governed. Thus, government action must be in the public interest. But people differ dramatically in what is public interest. Commercial interest is versus environmentalists. Why do we study public policy? First, to know more about the process for its own sake. Second, to more about the process to inform practitioners. And the last, to learn how to promote preferred policy options. This is the meaning of public policy. Public policy is, of course, government action or inaction in response to public problems. It is associated with
Good day, everyone, especially to you, Mom Flora Rosales. I'm Jekati Saladaga from BSEIS 1 Block 2. I'm just want to report my topic, what is regulatory policy is all about. Regulatory policy is formulated by governments to impose controls and restrictions on certain specific activities or behavior. Regulation is not only about rules of governing but also a concept and governance. Regulation is one the significant economic role and function of the government. There are many types of economic regulation that might be demanded due to various reasons. Economists have different views and theories on economic regulation. Public interest theory of regulation explains the rationality of regulation from the point of view of aiming public interest. Private interest theory of regulation developed by Chicago and Virginia School of Economics suggests that regulation does not protect the public at large but only the interest of special groups. This paper aims to provide an overview of the literature concerning regulation and also review the literature on various rationales for economic regulation. There are two kinds of regulations: economic and social regulation. Economic regulation consists of two types of regulations: structural regulation and conduct regulation. The first refers to rules on market structures and aims to realize functional competition at the market. The second refers to the rules determining behavior of economics agents at the market. Social regulation consists of rules aiming to connect external economies, particularly those that impinge on health and safety. This kind of regulation is common in the area of environment, labor conditions, consumer protection, and etc.
Good day, this is the continuation of the topic Regulation and Public Policy. Regulation and public policy encompasses the laws, regulation, and government actions that profoundly affect our daily lives, from the safety of our air, food, and water, to the education our children receive, to the quality of our health care, to how our financial institutions function, to how the benefits of economic growth are distributed. Government regulations are designed to increase the welfare of certain groups within society by protecting their interests. Government is the one that regulates the allocative process of the market. These are the major reasons of market failure: external economies of scale, public goods, protection of consumers due to imperfect competition, protection of infant industries due to harmful competition, asymmetric information, moral hazard, and transaction cost. External economies are defined as the consumption and or production activities of an economic unit which affects the benefits and or cost functions of other economic units either positively or negatively. Private market activities create positive and negative externalities. A positive externality exists when a producer cannot appropriate all the benefits of the activities it has undertaken. With positive externalities, too little of the good in question is produced. With negative ones, too much is made. Negative externalities such as air pollution occur when the producer cannot charge all costs. Government intervention versus government in external economies. Government intervention is expected to punish the economic agents in the case of negative externalities and correct them. Government, on the other hand, is expected to extend subsidies to those economic agents whose production or consumption activities generate positive externalities. There are two most important tools of regulatory government: the Bigovian taxes and the subsidies. Bigovian taxes used to correct the external diseconomies, while subsidies used to encourage activities which generate positive external economies. Economies of scale. Economies of scale exist when the long-run average costs continue to decline as firm size increases. Thus, a larger firm is believed has always lower cost. In other words, cost of production would be lowest when a single firm produced the entire output of the industries, where the economies of scale reign. Public goods. Paul Samuelson explicitly assumed two categories of goods: the public consumption goods and the private consumption goods. Public consumption goods means each man's consumption of it is related to the total by a condition equality rather than of submission. Private consumption goods, those which can be parceled out among different individuals, enjoy in common in the sense that good leads to subtraction from any other individual's consumption of that good. There are two characteristics of public goods: indivisibility and a joint consumption. Indivisibility means it cannot be parceled out among different individuals, while joint consumption means all enjoy in common. Public goods can be classified by two groups: pure goods and impure goods. There are two kinds of pure goods: pure private goods and pure public goods. Pure private goods characteristics is divisibility and exclusion, while pure public goods is indivisibility and non-exclusion. Main types of impure goods: club goods, common pool goods, and merit or demerit goods. Club goods or benefits are excludable but partially and non-rival. And there are two kinds of club goods: the quasi-public goods and the toll goods. Quasi-public goods is a kind of club goods. Education and health services are typical examples. It has divisibility and exclusion characteristics together with externality. Tool goods or exclusive club goods. These are partially indivisible or non-rival goods whose benefits are shared by club members. Common pool goods. Exclusion is difficult or sometimes expensive to implement. Merit or demerit goods. Those of which, due to imperfect knowledge, individuals would choose to consume too little. Imperfect competition results in inefficiencies in the market economy. It also severely limits the options available to customers. In brief, imperfect competition is bad because it results in higher product price and smaller output and limits the options to customers. Asymmetric information or incomplete. If individuals have different information at the time they act, markets may not perform efficiently, even when there are advantageous trade that can be made. As understood, when market participation have incomplete information and acquiring information is costly, markets may not function efficiently. Moral hazard. It refers to the presence of incentives for individuals to act ways that incur costs that they do not have to bear. For example, in medical care, a fully insured individual has an effectively unlimited demand for medical care, since she or he doesn't bear the cost of the care they receive. In addition, the individual may not have the proper incentive to take socially efficient preventive measures, since he or she knows that the cost of any illness or accident will be covered by insurance. The principal means of dealing with moral hazards is to structure incentives so that the induced behavior is taken into account. In the case of medical insurance, co-payments can be required and reimbursement limits imposed. Moral hazard can also be addressed by monitoring the behavior of individuals to increase the likelihood that they take proper care. Fine for not wearing a seatbelt is an example of monitoring. Transaction cost. Market failures might result due to transaction costs occurred in the market. To the extent consumers and producers incur costs in becoming informed about market opportunities and completing market transactions, markets will not perform efficiently. Regulation to reduce those transaction costs can improve efficiency. For example, In the auto industry, global auto emissions standards can enhance efficiency, as auto producers would not have to produce different models for different states. Other reasons of government regulations. Governments sometimes put some legal barriers to entry to the market, such as occupational licensure or licensing, patent, and public franchise. Licensing is a process which one obtains permission from the government to enter a specific occupation or business. Patent, it is an intellectual property right given to the holder of an innovation. Public franchise. Governments sometimes grant a franchise to a private firm for the provision of a good or service, but it excludes competitors from providing that goods and services. Theories of regulation. There are two alternative theories that explains the logic and the rationality of regulation: the public interest theory of regulation and the private interest theory of regulation. Public interest theory of regulation is a part of welfare economics. According to this theory, when markets fail due to several reasons, economic regulation should be imposed in order to maximize social welfare. This theory tends to see regulations as an outcome of sustained political effort to overcome market failures. According to the public interest theory of regulation, at first, regulation seeks the protection and benefit of the public at large. Secondly, it proposes that when market fails, economic regulation should be imposed in order to maximize social welfare. Private interest theory of regulation. This theory suggests that regulation does not protect the public at large, but only the interests of groups. According to this theory, well-organized groups will tend to benefit more from regulation than broad, diffuse groups. In other words, the most important prediction of this theory is that well-organized interest groups will be winners in the regulatory process. In brief, theory reaches a conclusion that regulation will benefit producers at the expense of consumers. The private interest theory of economic regulation is developed by economists who are generally placed into two well-known schools of economics, notably Chicago School of Economics and Virginia School of Political Economy. The Chicago theory of economic regulation, or the capture theory of regulation, it was developed by such economists such as George Stigler, Sam Piltzman, Richard Pusner, Gary Becker from University of Chicago. This theory suggests that it is in the interest of producers or the beneficiaries of regulations to gain the control of the regulatory agencies. The Virginia theory of economic regulation. It was made by public choice scholars. The most important contribution of this theory to the economics is that it developed a theory of governmental failure, as opposed to a theory of market failure, in a way that some economists had advocated government interventions in order to correct market failure. Conclusion. Government regulation might be demanded for a number of legitimate reasons. Market failure explains as some convincing reason for the implementation of government regulation. Although government regulation might be necessary due to several reasons, this does not mean that it is always possible to find and implement rational and efficient regulation policies. Both theoretical and empirical literature in government regulation shows us that government regulation has both the potential to result in benefits for the people, but it also has the potential to result in benefits for special interest groups at the expense of the public at large.